12/12,
The
23.
Coalition to Save Portland.
Oh yeah, no, that's right. No, that's another group. But actually, we're going to talk about some of the same things that
Welcome to
group
Restore
wants.
Oregon now.
Yeah, that's right. No, this is
Welcome to the
captive
Oregon
audience.
Republican Party. Welcome to.
Now, this is captive audience, but today you're going to feel like we're talking about Portland a little bit more than normal because they made some news today. Yesterday, Tina Kotek came out with her recommendations for saving Portland. And, well, needless to say, that's kind of like asking Joe Biden to fight corruption, and reduce bribery of government officials, or bring down inflation, stuff that we just shouldn't expect, right?
Right.
And that's what happened is that she came out with her 10 priorities for the downtown recovery and address issues like homelessness, public safety, drug use, and crime, which apparently she just discovered were problems. And she said that this 21st annual Oregon Leadership Summit, which I actually attended
That's what it
last year.
was. Okay, yeah, the
Yeah.
Leadership Summit.
I attended it last year, and it was launched. This is so that a task force that was launched in August could come out with all their solutions and suggestions. There was a CEO from a company called The Standard that headed it up, a co-chair. They met behind closed doors because that's what you do when you don't want people to know what silly crap.
That you have no solutions.
That's right. And you're going to make stuff up and blame somebody or something else for the problem. She said they have a set of concrete recommendations. They're going to, get this, declare a tri-government fentanyl emergency.
Well, that should help a lot.
Yeah, because
I'm
declarations.
surprised it's taken her this long.
Well, it is. Of course, if you just declare an emergency, then everybody knows you're really super serious. It's kind of like the urgent way to virtue signal is declare an emergency.
Right.
I'm declaring a emergency that doesn't solve problems emergency. I'm declaring it officially because this emergency is not going to solve anything. It's going to make people think that they're doing something about the problem. But in fact, it's an emergency to declare. It's a political emergency. That's what it is. And here's what they say they're actually going to do in terms of action. They say they're going to declare this 90-day emergency. It's the state of Oregon, Multnomah County, and the city of Portland. They've all come to the conclusion that they're complete F-ups. That's what they've decided. And so they should declare themselves the emergency. They're going to establish a command center within the central city where daily communication, coordination, and triage of the fentanyl crisis will be carried out. Which, of course, they needed to wait at least 4 months and have meetings behind closed doors so they could come out and declare that they needed a command center to do this.
Yeah.
They're going to leverage community-based providers, outreach workers,
Grifters.
Yes, grifters and poverty profiteers, law enforcement across all three governments to refocus existing resources, including expanding hours of operation during which providers can accept clients to better meet the central city's needs and carve out a path to exit the emergency. Yeah, that sounds like a revolution. We've decided to increase our opening hours because we just discovered that people who do fentanyl, they don't apparently stick to business hours. They had no idea until they had 4 months of meetings behind closed doors to discuss it in Portland. They also could have done something else. They could have walked outside in the evening and seen people doing fentanyl after business hours and said, you know what? I think we have the answer.
Yeah.
They're going to ban public use of controlled substances because they have already banned alcohol and marijuana. And so now they're going to actually go and ban the public use of these substances. They are going to push it to the Oregon legislature, who's going to apparently swoop into action and take decisive action. They're going to ramp up infrastructure for implementing this ban, which doesn't involve apparently greater law enforcement resources.
Yeah,
So
what kind of infrastructure do you use to enforce a ban?
they say they're going to ramp up Multnomah County's promoting access to health program.
Oh, grifters.
Yes, they're going to go out because like we're here to promote health.
So basically, the whole emergency thing is just a way. You know, when the governor declares an emergency, they have quite a bit of latitude as how they spend money. So basically, it's just Christmas for the grifters. That's what I'm hearing.
And so it was a great thing that they did this meeting during the Christmas season because that is going to pay off handsomely.
Mm-hmm.
They say they're going to increase safe and accessible options for homeless people because that's the main thing is that if you're homeless, you need safe and accessible options for public bathrooms and hygiene services because up until now, standard practice has been to utilize the city streets for those purposes.
Right.
So we'll see. I mean,
well, their needs are going to increase if they're going to have to hide from public view while they're doing drugs.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right.
Maybe some of those nice freestanding Oriental themed, Japanese themed, screens and stuff. They could put those up, and I can sit back there and puff the tin foil.
That's right. They have a history of actually coming up with really creative solutions that look stupid and don't work.
Sterile.
They're going to expand the homeless shelter capacity. Now, okay, that's been something that people have been talking about for like a year or two. Like the problem is that you keep building tiny homes at $250,000 each so that 18 months from now, you can put a tiny number of people in tiny homes and there's like 10,000 people on the streets. Yeah.
Pretty huge cost. Yeah.
And so they're going to be directing $9 million from Multnomah County to improve what they call flow through from existing shelters to permanent housing, because that's a seamless transition. You get a bunch of people on the street doing fentanyl and meth from other states that have been handed a free tent. And if you can get them into a shelter, they just go straight to permanent housing. That's how it works, right? Every time.
As long as, you keep the fentanyl flowing, probably, yeah. I mean,
that's right.
And you're going to have, unless your dealer is delivering to the tiny house community or the shelter, you're going to have to go out to get your drugs. So there's that. And homeless people who are addicted to drugs like fentanyl are notorious for not being able to find their way back home.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a big issue. 50 additional shelter pods at existing safe rest village sites. 50.
It all sounds so fluffy and rainbowy and unicorns prancing in a rainbow-filled wildflower-ridden pasture with the sunshine.
Do you remember that TV ad that they spent all that money?
Cover Oregon.
Cover Oregon. That you just reminded me of that.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have one of these talking about what a great job they're doing.
So embarrassing to be an Oregonian when they do stuff like that. Now it's embarrassing just to be an American when you have somebody like Biden in the White House. The thing, I mentioned before the show, the thing that really gets me about this, her summit thing is that PDX Real, who's doing the real reporting on what's going on in Oregon, had press credentials, and the governor's office told the promoter of the event to cancel their press credentials. So we have a governor we're paying, I don't know, $100,000 a year, whatever the hell it is, living in a mansion that's got a natural gas backup generator in case the windmills and the solar doesn't put out, who is not really interested in solving problems. Her primary interest, and there's a long history of this in Democrat governors in Oregon, is containing the narrative.
Yeah.
So we don't really have any solutions, but what we can do is we can make sure that nobody figures out that we don't have any solutions and tells you that we don't have any solutions. And I'm sure that's what they were getting at when they wanted the organizer to cancel press credentials for PDX Real, which apparently the organizer declined to do. And as you and I both know, and maybe a lot of people don't know in Oregon, that there is a long history of retribution that will befall people who defy the crown. And so that's pretty brave of the organizer. I'm not sure who the organizer is, but somebody stood up and said, "No, we're not going to do that," and there'll be consequences to pay for that. And we've seen it before.
Well, and in addition to, so they said they're going to, all the stuff we just talked about. They said they're going to elevate the law enforcement response in Central City. But when you read into the details, the devil's always in the details. First of all, they said the word elevate, which doesn't mean increase or intensify. It means elevate. They're going to increase the number of city park rangers. Yeah. So they're going to send people out with flashlights, and that are going to jaw people into stopping, threatening people and throwing hypodermic needles everywhere and pooping on the sidewalks. But they say they're going to clean up the city, which means that instead of stopping the problem at its source, they're going to spend enormous amounts of money dealing with its consequences and say that they're solving it. They're going to bring down fences and plywood, which is apparently they're going to do it before the Rose Festival in May. They're saying that the boarded up condition of the federal courthouse, the Justice Center, and some downtown businesses send the wrong signal to visitors. Boy, this speaks straight to what you just said. The emergency is that there's a narrative emergency, and this is going to modify the narrative. And the first time Antifa decides they don't like something that's going on, they're going to bust all those windows out.
Yeah. Once again, the governor's office is more concerned with the perception of the problem rather than solutions for the problem. I remember rolling into Washington, D.C. on August 27th of 2020 when there was a BLM protest scheduled for August 28th, the very next day. And I walked outside my hotel, and as far as I could see, there were crews putting up plywood on storefronts. And I thought to myself, what does it say about your movement when people greet you with plywood over their windows?
But it wasn't done because somebody thought it was a nice decorating tip. It was done because of constant.
Because windows are expensive.
yeah, windows are expensive. Plywood, not so much. And also the vandalism was enormous. And so they said, well, vandalize the plywood. And we'll just call it good. And so I just think that but here's the only substantive thing they came up with, and I don't think they'll stick to it. They're going to declare a moratorium on new taxes and offer targeted tax relief. This is the first time that Democrats in Oregon have ever admitted that increasing taxes is actually bad for a struggling economy where people are trying to leave. And that tax relief might actually incentivize some people to not leave. They say it's going to be a 3-year pause on new taxes and fees through 2026. And they're going to study and evaluate improvements for the taxing structure to find incentives, including expanding the business license tax downtown tax credit. So there was one other thing that came out of this, and People for Portland noted this. Ted Wheeler apparently took aim during the business summit as he was giving his speech at the billboards that talk about the Schmidt Show and the tear gas Ted, and
doesn't look good for visitors.
They apparently they say that this is the reason why things are bad in Portland. By pointing out that things are bad in Portland, and then right below the sign, you can see that things are bad in Portland.
Right.
And apparently that's the cause of a lot of the problems. And then they put up a link to donate to put up more billboards.
So with that, I was going to say, with that reasoning, all we'd have to do is hire the PR firm that did the Cover Oregon PR campaign and have them write the billboards, and everything would be good in Portland.
It would be Jim Dandy.
It
That's
would be
exactly right.
sunshine and rainbows.
Yeah, and I think that the billboard, they are effective, but it's because they are helping people feel like maybe someone has noticed that all this crap's going on that's screwing up the whole place. I don't know. We'll leave it to our listeners to decide if there's anything to this. There was there's been some big busts because, as is pointed out by Coin News, there is no shoplifting holiday in Portland. So as a result,
It's shoplifting season, isn't it?
it is shoplifting season.
Didn't that
This
start
is-
after the fourth Thursday in November?
That's exactly right. And what they did is they tried to, they did do some kind of big bust. I'm looking for it here. And this big bust was meant to go and just start putting a lot of people away who, I'll find it here somewhere, but they busted some people. We'll see what happens. But the real big, what's that?
For stealing?
For stealing, shoplifting. It's theft rings. They're organized, because when you organize, you can just, you can scale up to infinite level.
Yeah.
Well,
but you need a shopping list. I mean, you can't just go in there and steal stuff indiscriminately. You need to steal the right stuff. So somebody needs to organize that, because most of the shoplifters themselves are probably incapable of that, because they are going to go get some fentanyl after they get done with work.
That's right. Yeah, I mean that the purpose of the shoplifting isn't just to go and say I got a nice new pair of shoes. It's to cash them in or convert them into fentanyl as soon as possible. And actually, a lot of the time, it just skips the cash phase. They just get so much for a pair of shoes and so much for a stolen purse and so on.
Right.
But there was. And
if you're caught with 11 million hits of fentanyl, apparently you can skip the law as well. Is that what I'm understanding?
So yeah, that's a fascinating one. So on the 9th, 3 days ago, there's the media starts touting Multnomah County Sheriff's Office dangerous drugs team. That's what they call. So the dangerous drugs resulted in one of the largest illegal fentanyl seizures in state history and the largest seizure in agency history. Guess what this is called? The MCSO. So Multnomah County Sheriff's Office Dangerous Drugs Team, DDT. I shit you not. They are actually DDT.
That's a whole new generation, Kevin.
That's true. Yeah,
you don't know what the hell DDT is. I made a Men in Black reference to the people at Dutch Brothers today. They said a homeless guy came up and wanted water, and then he wanted sugar, and they gave him sugar, and he came back and he said more sugar. And I said, was his name Edgar? And they didn't get
it. Well, so they had this big bust that it was 52 pounds of fentanyl powder, 52 pounds, and like a tiny speck and might kill somebody. And they got 52 pounds. 1 pound of more than 8,000 fentanyl pills, 30,000 in cash, multiple firearms. Due to the excessive amount of fentanyl powder being processed, detectives used personal protective equipment, had Narcan available in case of accidental exposure. The bulk of fentanyl, over 50 pounds, was found in a cardboard box lined with a trash bag. And it's like,
there's no OSHA in the black market.
No, there isn't. They don't. And the employees can't sue with bully, although they could probably get an internship, but that's different. The people that are arrested: 23-year-old Luis Funes, 21-year-old Gerson Isaac Hernandez Betancourt, and 37-year-old Desiree Ann Torset, upstanding citizens. So this is what happened. So then, just 2 days later, the headline is alleged ringleader of trafficking ring is officially on the lam. Officially on the lam. Actually, it was the 9th. It said questions surround Multnomah County Sheriff's largest ever fentanyl bust. The alleged ringleader walked out of jail Thursday without being charged with a crime. And so, and what do you know? He is now on the lam, running away, and cops are looking for him. It's like this is like the Keystone.
That's a steaming pile of Schmidt.
It does. I mean, and you know what?
I mean, and they're laughing.
I know.
I mean, they're laughing. They're going, yeah, and then I just walked out.
Well, and there's so much wrong with this whole thing that it's just no way it's an accident, right? So apparently the Multnomah County judge issued a warrant for the arrest of the alleged fentanyl trafficker less than 24 hours after he'd already been arrested with 11 million doses of fentanyl because he was allowed to just walk out. And apparently he was supposed to show up in court the next morning and did not. That's a shock.
He was probably busy.
They say they're committed to bringing Mr. Funes to justice. He's the 23-year-old, by the way. And they spoke with the owners of the Airbnb, a blue house on a quiet street in the Cully neighborhood in Northeast Portland this afternoon. So that's crazy. They've been, after being told Funes wasn't in jail. The Murrays say they rented the property on a short-term rental marketplace, Airbnb, for several months to a man named Christian, a woman named Desiree, and a child also living in the house. The family says they just arrived from Arizona and were house hunting.
needed a place to stay.
He said, they seemed nice. Well, you'd be nice too if you had 50 pounds of fentanyl powder. Wonder if that's against the Airbnb regulations. Are you allowed to have, is it 50 pounds or is there some other amount you're allowed to have?
Yeah, I don't know.
They did keep Desiree in jail. And that she's being on charges of being a fugitive. So apparently she still hasn't really been charged here, but she's been charged as a fugitive because she's wanted on an out-of-state warrant. These people just stroll in from wherever they want in the country, get an Airbnb. They have 11 million doses of fentanyl on them. And the brilliant people that are in charge of our justice system arrest them and then let the main guy walk right out.
Anybody ask that why that happened?
That's as far as I got in the coverage here. I don't see any newer articles explaining what happened. I know. So this is and it's funny because this same time there was an article in the Epoch Times that said Chinese-made opioids 10 times stronger than fentanyl killed 54 people in the UK in the past 6 months because the stuff keeps getting stronger, and I guess they get theirs straight from China. They don't bother going through Mexico. So
wow,
we have a special Joe Biden redistribution strategy through the southern border that is bringing it here. So, yeah, we are awash in this stuff, and it's not going to change unless you do something like, now they've decided that fentanyl is really the bad drug, right? It's the one that's the problem. And there are people that are literally, there's people that are swearing that they're going to get rid of this Measure 110 or at least reform it, right? And there was an article that the Oregonian actually published an editorial saying the addiction crisis in Oregon calls for recriminalizing drug possession, right? So recriminalizing. And then there's a report in Coin News that says, will the plan to ban public drug use help revitalize Portland? The thing we just heard about. So they're going to criminalize at least the public drug use. And
nobody asks any questions, do they?
I don't. There's no inquiry. No.
I guess Willamette Week is probably the only one that's willing to actually ask questions.
Well, there are a lot of district attorneys, sheriffs, and police chiefs across the state that are banding together to call for these major changes. Um, Now, some of them are Democrats, and these are the same people that just a few short months ago, now that they realize that there's a political narrative emergency been declared in the state of Oregon, they are starting to talk about how they're going to do something to fix or repair uh, Measure 110, which is in tatters. And there's people like Ron Wyden who are starting to talk tough on fentanyl. He says they got to come out swinging. He should come out swinging, but have you ever seen somebody like take a swing and then hit themselves in the face? That would be the only appropriate outcome of him coming out swinging. Or maybe him like slugging Tina Kotek in the head, or whoever, Ted Wheeler. You know, there's just a bunch of people who probably, if he's going to come out swinging, then I hope he starts swinging at the actual cause, because again, it's a narrative emergency, and he is all over it at this point.
Oh, yeah, it's a good way to put it. It is a narrative emergency.
Oh,
That's
here's
all.
the
That's all Democrats care about. That's all most politicians care about is what the perception. What do we say in politics? The perception is reality, and the truth is negotiable.
yeah. Yeah, and it's also negotiable whether you'll ever find or learn the truth at that point, because that's being withheld for your own protection. And by the way, yes, Portland police conducted a special anti-shoplifting sting and arrested 24 people this weekend. There were some of the people tried to escape with shopping carts of large screen TVs. 2 stolen vehicles, 13 outstanding warrants.
Oh, it is Christmas.
It is Christmas. That's true. And in the Christmas spirit, maybe they were just trying to help out Santa. That could be. Maybe that's what I'm missing in this story here that would make it all clear.
Yeah. Yeah, because Santa probably doesn't make his own big screen TVs. He probably farms that out. I'm guessing. I don't know.
No, he probably farms it out to fentanyl dealers and addicts in Portland, because, they're very motivated. And so they can cut costs. Why hire those pesky elves with all their, administrative overhead? We can just, hire contractors with cash under the table, or people who will steal athletic shoes and purses and then just exchange those for fentanyl, who then turn around and go get big screen TVs and ship those in for you. No, this is Portland's economy nowadays. And if people don't think that's actually what the economy is, then they've missed something here, because certainly the regular economy has been trying to get up and leave the city. That is the one sure thing that has been happening. Now, there's some other stuff that's been happening also in the city, but it's more on the vandalism front. But this one's related to the stuff that's going on, particularly with the Jewish community and the way they're facing violent threats, which apparently are okay with some people in power.
It's okay. It's okay at Harvard, MIT, and University of Pennsylvania. We know that.
Yeah. Yes, and about 100 Democrats in the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C., including Val Hoyle, who thinks she's just voting present because she doesn't want to say anything to condemn.
She hates Jews.
Well, what else can you conclude?
Yeah.
If she voted. She doesn't have another explanation for it, so she's decided that it's fine. So I'll just read off a few of these stories. Apparently, there's been fake threats being phoned in, which I don't know what a fake threat is versus a real threat, because if you receive a threat, then all the consequences of receiving a threat, whether you can find out right away if it's fake or not, you have to act like it's real, don't you? And so apparently 2 congregations in Portland, Nev Shalom and Beth Israel, received emailed threats this past Monday. They cleared both buildings and then later deemed the threat not credible. How I don't know, but and these threats can actually put innocent people at risk, because obviously it creates an emergency. People start evacuating. There's panic.
Mhm.
I'll believe they have a reason to call these fake threats when they show who they have arrested, investigated, and arrested for issuing the fake threats. Because how do you know whether they're credible or not unless you just sit there waiting for it to happen and then nothing happens? How do you know it's fake?
You
I
got me.
I'm just asking questions, David. I don't have the answers either, but I'm not on the lam from dealing fentanyl, so
Yeah.
I'm no
Yeah, I'm just here for the liberty and justice for all.
Well,
Explaining how anything works in a big city like Portland, I couldn't tell you.
so the owners of Portland's Sunland Lighting, it's a lighting store, put up a holiday display that featured a unity display of religion to honor the Jewish, Muslim, and Christian faiths to celebrate Christmas. The display did not last a single night before the shop window was busted. It has been a tough holiday season for Portland, where political protests that disrupted the Portland tree lighting ceremony. The one in California was canceled, but the one in Portland was just disrupted. And one business had $10,000 worth of their Christmas decorations stolen, which were later recovered by police. You know, this is just every day in Portland.
Yeah.
But it's not
Yeah.
just Portland. It's not just Portland, by the way. Protesters actually showed up on the other day, and this is reported by Andy No. When was this? It was the 8th of December. Protesters showed up in Beaverton to try and disrupt the Beaverton tree lighting ceremony, which I got to tell you is kind of a rinky-dink one. It's just like out in the next to the library. It's not like this massive production, but it says anti-Israel rioters. They came in and they started marching around with sign, no peace on earth while Palestine is occupied, is what the sign says. And yeah, it's
Jesus was a Palestinian. That's next, right?
yeah, that's the next one. And
Is Bethlehem in Palestine?
it's actually, I thought it's in the
Nazareth?
West Bank, which that's one of the, but at the same time, it's like, I think we got a pretty good historical record of what Bethlehem's all about. There's this book that's, I think, this widest selling book in world history, that
Yeah.
recounts what Bethlehem.
Perennial bestseller. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
How did the meme go? Billions of people are getting ready to celebrate the birth of a Jew 2,000 years ago, but can't believe that but claim that the Israelites are occupiers since 1948.
well, but not to be left out of the fun, the Portland City Hall was hit with pro-Palestinian graffiti on Monday, and handwritten messages reading "Free Palestine, Stop the Genocide" were scrawled on Southwest 4th Avenue entrance pillars of the downtown building. And so everybody's getting tagged. Apparently, this is all okay with the people that are running the city and the people that are running the state. So just don't expect any arrests. There's aren't going to be.
Well, they're all hamstrung. Kotek and her plan to cure what's wrong with the ills of Portland is hamstrung by her own policy, hamstrung by the people that fund her, that write the checks, that make the donations, and everybody else is just the same way. I mean, the Portland mayor probably knows that this is wrong, but he can't say it. You can't say that. You can't say that out loud.
He's too busy blaming billboards for destroying the city.
Yeah.
Not that he's destroying the city.
Yeah. And that's all it is. It's all narrative containment, narrative enhancement, narrative control. Screw the real problems. They don't. It's a weird way to administer what is supposed to be, something for the public good. Government, right? Government's supposed to enforce contracts and enforce the law and keep people from killing each other and all that other stuff. But we just don't do that anymore, particularly in Portland. Portland is really, well, Oregon in general, but Portland specifically, really is the petri dish of cultural Marxism. I mean, we are, people come up. I guess people sit around in a cultural Marxism think tank and go, "Well, let's try this," and everybody goes, "Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's start in Portland." You know. Call up the governor, call up Wheeler, and go, "Hey, we want to try this out." Oh, okay. Well, I guess we better, because you guys are the ones writing the checks.
Yeah, and they also make sure that they create future generations of morons to go believe all this stuff by, as you say, laying their eggs in places like Eugene and Corvallis, so that future generations can come and embrace Marxism as they watch their cities get ground into the ground by the policies they voted for. Now, this is a real thing, and
but at least they're diverse, equal, and inclusive.
Yes, and also that they are allowing people their bodily autonomy, which means pooping and pissing on the streets. That's so they got all that stuff. I guess liberty and justice for all, it just means different things to different people.
Well, I've watched a lot of interviews, street interviews with people who live on the streets. And one of the themes is that they live on the streets because they don't want to live by the rules.
Yeah.
So, drugs is a common thing, but not all, not all people are drug addicted. But apparently many of them prefer just to not have to obey the rules of society, and they like it that way, and they're willing to live in that manner. So,
by the way, to answer Bobby's question, who's running for mayor of Portland? There's really only one candidate that I think is worth considering. His name is Rene Gonzalez, and he's the only one that actually talks about doing something about and actually has followed through with action since he got elected to the city councilor and ousted Joanne Hardesty, the crypt keeper who brought a lot of these awful policies to the city, and he replaced her. But he's running for mayor, Bobby, and the others. There's Carmen Rubio, who is really just Joanne Hardesty light in many ways. And then there's Mingus Maps, who I don't think knows what he is, because sometimes he sounds like Renee and sometimes he sounds like Carmen Rubio. We'll see. I hope that answers your question.
Gonzalez is the one they're all attacking, right?
They're all attacking him, which means he's doing something right. And he actually plans to get tough on what's happening in the city. And he already has.
It's not even get tough anymore. I mean, it's not even get tough. It's go back to the way we used to do it.
Yeah, he's unstupiding the city.
Yeah.
One stupid policy at a time. And he's the one who's told the Portland street response people, who are the unarmed people that go around hang granola bars to drug addicts and hope they're doing fine, and give them crack pipes and, bottles of water. And he told them, you will stop giving them tents. Now, he couldn't stop Multnomah County from doing it. That has like 70,000 tents to hand out. So the city clears away the tents, and then he ordered them to stop handing them new tents, and then the county comes in and hands them new tents. So he's doing what he controls, and then you've got all these other idiots that are still doing the dumbest policy. By the way, I do want to point out something, and this is something everybody, if you have an hour of time and you want to understand what the other side really thinks on this issue, there's the City Club of Portland ran a 1-hour advertisement, that's what I would call it, about, it's entitled Addiction, Treatment, and Decriminalization, Lessons from Portugal, which is apparently what Measure 110 is based on, is a 20-year-old policy whose only adherent in the world is Portugal. And they said, well, that's a super smart idea. Let's do that in Oregon. And then after they've been doing it for 2 years or 3, and it's a complete and utter failure, as you can see everywhere, and they're still saying it needs more money and more time.
Oh yeah.
They decided, I think what we'll do is we'll go study in Portugal how they did it. Because, the smart thing to do is to implement an entire new policy, lie to people about it, get it into place, have it turn into a complete Schmidt show, and then, and only then, begin to study how it might work in a place that it's been done. Isn't that, that just tells you what their real agenda is, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah. It's called remedial policy. Sounded good. I mean, free, you can do your drugs and not have to go to jail. I mean, that just seems so compassionate.
Well, I watched it, I listened to it, and basically, here's what came out. Like they just talked the entire time about the goal is to decriminalize drug use and to decriminalize all the behaviors that surround it and focus on creating housing, because that's the real problem. That's all they said for an hour.
Wow.
And
these are not, I mean, these are educated people who earn a living, right?
they
I
are
mean, I've
grifters.
been to the city. I've been to a city club meeting. I can't remember why I was there, but I was there once. And I mean, these are not supposedly, at least on the outside, are not supposed to be stupid people, right?
They're not foaming at the mouth illiterates. They know exactly what they're doing. And yet I asked a question. I posted a question. Other people posted questions that got answered. The Q&A was the most interesting part of it, by the way, because they keep talking about how they have evidence-based policies. And I'm like, have you noticed the evidence called the City of Portland as to how the policies are working?
Yeah, didn't we win some sort of recognition for that evidence-based policy in Oregon?
Yeah, we did. We won an award for it, and they just droned on with the same gook that they've been talking about. They first put this policy on the ballot. By the way, they blamed a court decision for being unable to do what they need to do to stop drug dealers from dealing larger amounts. And there was this decision, I think it's called the Hubble decision. It was a state Supreme Court decision that basically said that the only way you could prosecute a drug dealer is if actually you personally witnessed and caught them in the act of dealing drugs. So you can find them with literally drugs, all the paraphernalia, rubber balloons, burner phones.
Yeah, there's a triangle in drug dealing called the triangle is the product, the items like you said, the scale and the bags and money, and that's what drug dealers have typically been prosecuted on, because they possess everything to distribute, which is the big crime.
So they can be caught with all of that stuff. They can even somebody can be standing there saying, I would like some drugs. And they still can't be arrested unless the police officer witnesses the person actually receiving the drugs and giving the person money. Otherwise, you can't do anything. That is what happened to our justice system in the state of Oregon because of that decision. And they spent the rest of the time, Rob Noss, who's a state representative, and I would say, I'll just say it, he's an asshat. I just listened to him, and I'm just going to use the bold language there, David, because I think we have to be pithy here.
He probably hates Jews and black people, like Sal Oil.
That's right. Well, he certainly doesn't like the ones that he thinks fentanyl is the best option for.
Yeah,
and I'm sure that these guys, when they went to Portugal, dined on fine Portuguese cuisine, sampled the wines, had one hell of a time. But they came away with believing that everything they're doing is right. And yet, here's the best part of it. So I posted a question because there was some contradictory testimony from the police, the head of the police bureau, Aaron Schmautz. I think it's the Portland. I think he's the head of the Portland police officers. Anyway, I said, how much state and local funding will be enough to end the fentanyl and meth crisis in Portland? And how soon will this happen if all the funding happens? Simple question. And the answer was they don't know. The answer came back in a cryptic form. He said we should be thinking not in terms of 8 weeks, but in terms of 8 generations. I'm quoting. 8 generations. That's a lot of money and a lot of time. They said they are very concerned. They know the cartels are concerned about the pricing of the drugs, and I think that was a Freudian slip there, because as you pointed out, they are actually much more concerned about the cartels than they are about anybody living in Portland. And the best part of this was, because I never got an answer to my question, but there was a question asked.
Who said there was concern on the part of the cartels about the price?
I believe the police officer said that he knew that.
Really?
Aaron Schmautz.
Is that on the YouTube video?
Yeah.
I got to listen.
I wrote it down as soon as it was said. But here's the most.
That could be the slip of the century right there, Kevin.
It could be, but here's the one that blows up the entire hour that they spent doing. And it was blown up about 30 minutes in on the Q&A. It was never discussed, but I took screenshots of the Q&A so that I could prove that this actually happened. A gentleman who's participating in watching this says, does Portugal have a fentanyl problem? Are drugs cheap and easily available like they are here in Portland? Aaron Schmautz, fentanyl is not present in Portugal today. So this entire policy that they have and the entire trip in one short sentence was shown to be a complete waste of time. Because the drug they all agreed is the most dangerous, that's literally not only everywhere and cheap, but embedded, laced into every other drug now.
So is fentanyl prohibited in Portugal? Is that the one thing they arrest you for?
I guess, I don't know. They didn't say, but they don't have it there. So you guess you can't be arrested anyway.
I can't see any way you could keep it out of there unless in fact you enforce that. I mean, because the rest of the drug use is fairly manageable. I mean, we didn't have this problem when we just had back when I was in my 20s, it was just Skid Row bums, right? They're all drunk. And there's a few heroin addicts, but the fentanyl has just created a whole new new crop
in the meth and the
meth. It's created a whole new crop of zombies. So I have friends that are from Portugal. I'll have to ask them.
Well, so there was one other question asked, which is very revealing. Portland has 1.25 police per 1,000 residents. What is the comparable ratio in Portland? Understanding that police on the street there may be federal, because they don't really have the same local system. They have federal police.
Right.
Aaron Schmautz, the police bureau guy, said their ratio is 2.4 to 1,000. Interestingly, exactly the ratio the FBI recommends for cities in America. So Portugal has enough police, and they don't have fentanyl.
Yeah.
And these guys swear up and down.
They're busting the fentanyl dealers. They're jailing them. And all the dealers are saying, F that, we'll just sell heroin or whatever it is, right? I mean,
that's right.
If you made if the police made it known to you that you couldn't sell this drug, but you can sell this other drug, you're a drug dealer, you would certainly do that.
By the way, I want to issue a correction. It wasn't 8 generations. It was 7 generations instead of 7 weeks. That's what the guy said. And this is the guy who makes money off of treating people forever.
What's a generation? 25 years?
I think it's 20. I don't know. Yeah, but these guys want this to become a permanent thing. So I recommend folks should go watch this, because you really have to understand that this is what the people are saying that actually have gotten our state to fall for this stuff, and they are still defending it despite enormous evidence that this is a complete disaster. And so if you can't, we've got to defeat their ideas, because you might say, well, that's Portland. No, this is the state of Oregon. And whatever they're doing there, if you don't stop them there, it's just going to happen everywhere.
That's the left in America. It's the left worldwide. Western civilization is the target, and we're part of that. So
just two other stories, and then we'll wrap up. One is an Oregon story. Apparently, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service is proposed shooting 400,000 barred owls over the next 30 years in order to save endangered spotted owls.
Oh, good. Good.
So they're gonna massacre barred owls because barred owls are killing spotted owls, and spotted owls are more important owls. In order to have equity for owls, they have to save the spotted owls from the barred owls.
There's no way that the wild groups and keeper groups will allow that to happen. They'll sue them.
They'll sue them. This will go on forever. But here's the great thing about this story, that a lot of people who don't know what happened to the timber industry in Oregon, which used to be like the wealthiest places on the West Coast, used to be right around the timber industry, like in Coos Bay.
Yeah.
And
huge port shipping lumber out.
Shipping lumber. I think they built a lot of California off of what they shipped out of that deep water port. And the reason why in 1990, under Barbara Roberts, they ended up destroying the Oregon timber industry effectively. They reduced it by some 90% by essentially forbidding them from harvesting timber altogether and giving us the situation we have now where we have constant wildfires off of that stuff. Is that they said at the time they were doing it to save the spotted owl. What was revealed, and now is finally fully admitted, is that the real reason why the spotted owl was endangered wasn't because we were harvesting timber habitat. That had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
It was because another owl was eating and killing the spotted owl, and it was the barred owl. So we have it. It's official.
Can we have logging back, please?
Yeah, exactly.
So we don't have to do these forest fires, massive forest fires over here.
I know, the annual forest fires. We should just call them Biden fires or something like that. Some people start to actually understand how bad it is that they shouldn't be.
Well, the good news in my area is I have an app that shows all of the old burn scars. And there's very little left to burn. So the good news is couple more fire seasons and it'll all be done for probably 25 years.
Yeah. See, what a successful program. It's the most successful government program in recent history. Just allow everything to burn. And once it's burned, there's nothing to burn for 25 years. And then we'll wait for the fuel load to rebuild, which they will let it rebuild. So, but I just mentioned about our friend Joe Biden. He's been having a rough few days. And he seems to be taking a lot of hits right now because all this evidence has emerged, and his son was charged with a series of felonies, which effectively admit that the whole time that he was actually doing a bunch of stuff that they're desperate to protect Joe Biden from being the subject of an investigation on. But that might not happen because the House Rules Committee in the House of Representatives has voted in favor of sending the impeachment inquiry. Because so far, the committees that are doing this, there's 3 committees in the House: Oversight, Judiciary, and some other one. And they are each conducting investigations and getting evidence, but they are getting slowed down and stonewalled and being forced to go to court or being told that there's something not going to be given something. So to overcome that, they are going to make the impeachment official, which at that point it will not be possible to say you cannot subpoena and pull people in front of this committee to testify. You can no longer withhold evidence. This is interestingly enough, this precedent has been fully vetted and established when they tried to impeach President Trump. So now they're going to have to, they made their bed, they're going to have to lie in it, because this vote is going to go to the floor of the House of Representatives tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen with it. But this is the moment when Republicans get to decide what they're going to do. And the committee itself voted 9-4 to send this to the entire House tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, if he's bringing it to the floor, they have the votes, unless somebody defects.
I'd like to believe they're that thorough. But it is, I know, but it is scheduled, and it's just to conduct an inquiry that cannot be blocked anymore. and slowed down. There is a clock to this, and Democrats are running out of time because the only guy that's effectively on these ballots able to win the Democratic primary is Joe Biden in these different states. So they may find themselves between a rock and a hard place if they decide they have to abandon Joe Biden. I guess their backup strategy would have to be something like go to the convention and just pick somebody.
Yeah, which they can do.
They can.
Yeah, they've got that all figured out, and it's probably going to be Newsom.
Well, I know that the people who control the Democratic Party don't like him. He thought he might be able to, get in there by Super Tuesday if something were to happen with Biden. But now it's getting too late. You can't even get on those ballots. So,
all right, when is Super Tuesday? Is that in March
5th, I think.
Huh?
I think it's March 5th.
Okay.
4th or 5th.
Wow, that's just right around the corner.
Yeah,
I wonder what they have in store for us. I wonder what they have in store for us. Because the last in 2020 it was like July. It was January. It was just for my birthday in January. Is when we started hearing that this deadly disease was going to hit our shores and kill us all off. and they're gonna, obviously they're gonna need something like that to do again. So.
Well, so maybe what they plan to do is what this report just stated in Just the News, which is 1 in 5 mail-in voters admit to committing voter fraud in the 2020 election. 21% of mail-in voters said they filled out a ballot on another person's behalf.
Really?
Yep. Because you can. You physically can do it. You can't do it if you have to go to a booth and show your ID and go in by yourself. So...
Well, every time I try to do it, they send it back because the signature doesn't match.
Yeah, because your signature has a special flag next to it, David, as you know, because you want liberty and justice for all, and anyone who has who wants that probably going to have a problem with their signature on a mail-in ballot. Just a while. So.
Yeah. Well, I've been, I've been having conversations with people, about what are they going to do in 2024 to make sure that the election is not easy, and I'm just wondering. I guess it's December. I guess we'll know soon enough.
So Lori just came up with, I think, a headline that sounds like it's crazy, except it makes sense if you take in everything today. She said the barred owl will attack the voting machines, creating a need to shut down the election.
And shoot more barred owls.
And they'll shoot more barred owls.
Everybody will have to stay indoors. Businesses are going to have to shut down, except for Walmart and Home Depot, of course, and Target, and everybody's going to have to stay home while we're out shooting the barred owl, so you can have a safe and secure election, maybe the safest and securest election in U.S. history.
So, and the barred owls, actually, the way they could get out of trouble is just start dealing fentanyl, because that is easy, because they're never going to do anything if you start dealing fentanyl. This barred owl with like some fentanyl in its beak or in its claws, flying, like dropping it, and
picking up the money.
That's right. Become employees of the cartel, barred owls, you're going to be fine. So we figured it all out. Anyway, that was a good way to end tonight's episode. We had a blast covering just the truth of what actually happened in the last couple of days.
You really can't make this stuff up, Kevin.
Nope. Well, thank you, David. I appreciate it. And thanks for all of our great fans. Please share this with some folks, because I think at least they can be informed while they laugh before they have to cry. And maybe they can just watch this and just laugh all the way through and be super informed on everything. This has been The Captive Audience, and we will see you tomorrow night on the next episode. I think it's, David, it's you and Sonny tomorrow night. Is that right?
It's either me and Sonny or me and is it
Don
Sonny?
Don is not available, so I think it's
Sonny and I, yes. So,
and who knows? I might end up being pulled in at the last minute, but we will be there. We will be there, folks. So we will see you tomorrow night with probably another day of insane news. Have a great one.